We'll discuss the chapter 3, which is all about the government accounting process. So in this chapter, we will going to record the basic transactions of a government entity and prepare a worksheet. So the government accounting process comprises the activities of analyzing, recording, classifying, summarizing, and communicating transactions involving the receipt and disposition of government funds and property and interpreting the result thereof. So this process is similar to that of a business entity, except that it incorporates budgetary controls such as recording in the budget registries and preparing periodic budget accountability reports. So these are the books of accounts and registries used by the government entities. The first one are the journals. So general journal is used to record transaction not recorded in the special journal. The cash receipt journal is used to record the report of collection and deposit and cash receipts register of collecting officers. The cash disbursement journal is used to record the cash disbursements of the disbursing officer, and the check disbursement journal is used to record the check disbursement of the disbursing officer. So the second one are the ledgers. For the general ledger summarizes all transactions recorded in the journal. The subsidiary ledger show details of each control account in the general ledger. Lastly is the registers, which is the budget records. So the registries are Registries of Revenue and Other Receipt or RROR, the Registry of Appropriation and Allotments or RAPAL, the Registries of Allotments, Obligations, and Disbursement or RAOD, and the Registries of Budget, Utilization, and Disbursement or RBUD. So the registries are used to monitor the budget. You may think of the registries like logbooks or something rather than accounting books with debit and credit columns. So the accounting unit of the agency maintains the journal and ledgers while the budget division of the agency maintains the registries.
So these are the budget registries used by the government entities. So the first one is the Registries of Revenue and Other Receipts or the RROR, which is used to monitor the budgeted amounts, actual collections, and remittances of revenue and other receipts. And the second one is the Registry of Appropriation and Allotments or the RAPAL, which is used to monitor appropriation and allotments. This is to ensure that allotments will not exceed appropriations. And the third one is the Registries of Allotments, Obligations, and Disbursements or the RAOD, which is used to monitor the allotments received, obligations incurred against the corresponding allotment, and the actual disbursement made. This is to ensure that obligations incurred will not exceed allotments while actual disbursements will not exceed the obligations incurred. So a separate RAOD shall be maintained for each object of expenditures. So we have here the RAOD PS, RAOD MOOE, RAOD FE, and the RAOD CO. So the following are the classifications of expenditures by objects. So the first one is the personnel services or the PS, which pertains to all types of employee benefits like the salaries, bonuses, allowances, cash gifts, and etc. And the second one is the maintenance and other operating expenses or the MOOE, which pertains to various operating expenses other than employee benefits and financial expenses such as travel, utilities, supplies, and etc. The third one is the financial expenses or the FE, which pertains to financial costs like interest expense, bank charges, and etc. It also includes losses on foreign exchange transactions. And the last one is the capital outlays or the CO, which pertains to capitalizable expenditures such as expenditures on the construction of public infrastructures, acquisition cost of equipment, and etc. So the fourth budget registries is the Registries of Budget, Utilization, and Disbursements or the RBUD, which is used to record the approved special budget and the corresponding utilizations and disbursements charged to retained income. So a separate RBUDs are also maintained for each object of expenditures. So we have here the RBUD PS, RBUD MOOE, RBUD FE, and the RBUD CO. So in keeping the general accounts, the Commission on Audit or the COA shall keep the general accounts of the government and preserve the vouchers and other supporting documents.
Basic recording. So we have here basic recording for appropriation. So as we can see, we have here the objective or object of expenditures and their respective amounts. So we have here an example entry for our registry of appropriation and allotment. So as we can see here, we have here the PS or the personal service, which has the amount of 100,000. So we will going to record that in the appropriation column of the RAPAL. So receipts and appropriation recorded in registry of appropriation and allotments. So the second one is the basic recording for allotment. So as we can see also here, we have here the objects of expenditures. So each of the amounts of this expenditure or object of expenditure are recorded in the allotment column of the registry of appropriations and allotments. So receipts and allotment recorded in RAPAL and RAOD. So we have here the registry of appropriation and allotment or RAPAL. So we have here the recordings for each object expenditure, and we also have here recordings or entry for registry of allotment, obligation and disbursement or RAOD for personal service, which has the amount of 90,000, for the MOOE, which has the amount of 40,000, the CO, which has the amount of 170,000. So here are the sample for registry of allotment, obligation and disbursement for each object of expenditures in recording allotments. So we have here the first one 90,000, for the MOOE, which is allotments 40,000, the CO or the capital outlays, which has 170,000 allotments.
Incurrence of obligation. Obligation request and status or ORS. Obligations shall be incurred through the issuance of obligation request and status or ORS. The requesting office shall prepare this document supported by valid claim documents like disbursement, vouchers, payrolls, purchase or job orders, itinerary of travel, and etc. The head of the requesting office shall certify the necessity and legality of the obligation and the validity of the supporting documents. The head of the budget division shall certify the availability of the allotment. So this is the example of preparation of ORS or obligation request and status. And this is the registry of allotments, obligation and disbursement or RAOD. So we have here the personal services. So this is how you record the personal services. The first one, you will put the allotments and the obligations. So the difference of allotment and obligations is equal to the unobligated allotments. So we have another here, the MOOE or the maintenance and other operating expenses. And we also have here the capital outlays or the CO. Notice of obligation request and status adjustment or NORSA. If the obligations recorded in the RAOD or the ORS above need to be adjusted, the subsequent adjusted shall be made through the use of the notice of obligation request and status adjustment or NORSA. The adjustment shall be affected through a positive entry, addition, or a negative entry, reduction, as appropriate. The next one is Disbursement Authority, Notice of Cash Allocations or the NCA. The registries that are used to monitor NCA are the following. Letter A, Registry of Allotment and Notice of Cash Allocation or the RANCA. The letter B, Registry of Allotment and Notice of Transfer of Allocation or the RANTA. So we have here the next one, Tax Remittance and Advice or TRA. So TRA is used to recognize in the first one, the books of government agencies, and the second one, the books of BIR and BOC, and the last one, the books of BTR. So here is the example of basic recording summary. So you will see here the appropriation, allotment, Incurrence of obligation in CA, disbursement, tax remittance, advice, and billing collections and remittance, and the last one is the reversion of unused in CA.
The revised chart of accounts. A chart of accounts is a list of all the accounts used by an entity. Government entities shall use the account titles and account codes in the revised chart of accounts or RCA issued by the COA. The RCA includes numerous accounts. Only a few of these accounts are shown below as presenting the complete list with more than double the number of pages in this book. Each account in the RCA is assigned an 8-digit code as follows. The first set is the account group. The second is the major account group. The third is a sub-major account group. The fourth is the general ledger accounts, and the last one is the general ledger contra accounts. And there are also the codes and the respective account groups. The code 1 is the assets, the code 2 is the liabilities, 3 is the equity, 4 is the income or revenue, and 5 is the expenses. Example, the cash collecting officers. The first code is 1, which is the account group is the asset. The second is the major account group, the cash and cash equivalent. The third is a sub-major account group, cash on hand. The fourth is the general ledger account, the cash collecting officers, and the last is the general ledger contra accounts, not a contra account. And these are also the list of accounts. And the example of the expenses account. The government accounting cycle. Number 1 is the appropriation, recorded or posted the RAPAL. Second, allotment, recorded or posted the RAPAL and RAOD. 3. Incurrence of obligation, recorded in ORS documents and RAOD. 4. Is the disbursement authority or NCA. These are the example of the disbursement authority NCA journal entry. 5. Disbursements. PS, MOOE, CO, remittance of amounts withheld. 6. Billings, collection, and remittance. 7. Unadjusted trial balance. 8. Adjusting entries. 9. The closing entries. And the last is the preparation of financial statements.
The fifth step in the government accounting cycle is the disbursement. We have here an illustration for solutions and recording of disbursement. The first one is personal service. The second is the MOOE purchase of supplies journal entry and also for the government's accounts payable. This is the sample general ledger for the government transactions. For adjusting entries, we have here the sample accounts that needs adjustments, and here is sample adjusting entries for the government. The next one is the closing entries. The following are the necessary closing entries. A. The closing of the cash treasury, agency deposit, regular account to the accumulated surplus, deficit account. B. The closing of the subsidy from the national government account to the revenue and expense summary account. And the last one is the closing of the income and expense accounts to the revenue and expense summary account and the closing of the net balance of revenue and expense summary account to the accumulated surplus or deficit account. Last part is the financial statement of the government accounting.